Okay, this video is going to take a look at cast operators in Java. So before we do that, we need to kind of set some background. If you remember the story of Cinderella, and so there was a pumpkin, and there was a fairy godmother, and the fairy godmother waved her wand towards the pumpkin, and the pumpkin changed into, or was transformed into, a carriage. And so there is actually a cast operator in here. And so cast operators in Java are going to be, whoa, I can't do that, would be int with parentheses. So I'll put it up here, int. That's the cast operator right there. The other cast operator that we're going to do is called a double, and they're not data types in this case. They are cast operators because they have parentheses around them. Okay, so the cast operator, the int, converts numeric data to doubles. I'm sorry, to ints. An int converts numeric data to ints. So let's say you have a 4.6 and you apply the magic wand that's setting up a spell on the 4.6. So this is the cast operator right here, the wand casting the spell on the 4.6, and it gets converted or transformed into an int. So it goes from a double to an int magically, and so now it's an int. Alright, so what happens here is you have a double converts numeric data to a double. So it takes an int and it can change it to a double. So if we look at number one, now some of these you might just try to do, think of it before you hear my answer. It'd be great. But if you intize or cast the spell of being an int on this double, it's going to cut off the decimal. It doesn't round it, just cuts it off. So this becomes a 3. This double cast operator takes an int and converts it into a double. Well, it becomes 7.0. And then you have, in this case, what we're going to do is we're going to basically work from left to right. And so we're going to cast the int spell on the 6.2, which causes it to become a 6. So now you've got a 6 times 7. So you have an int now instead of a double times an int. And so int times int is an int. So we have 42. Then, now we have something that we should be familiar with. We have parentheses, which is what tells us, or the compiler, to do what's inside there first. Now 6.2 times 7. We look at that and we go, okay, so, whoops. So 6.2 times 7 is going to be a decimal. And so we work that out, and we end up with, okay, so something didn't work here. So we have 6.2 times 7, which is 43.4. So at this point, we have a 43.4. However, now it's going to be intized. And so 43.4 becomes an int by just taking out the decimal. So now we have 43. The next one, we're going to divide by the result of this happening. So this would take place first. This is going to take a 3, change it to a double. So it's actually 25 divided by not 3, but a converted 3. It's now 3.0. And so that, if you do that in the calculator, then you're going to get 25 divided by 3, which is going to give you 8.333. And so that's what goes here is 8.333. So the next thing now is that we want to see how it acts here. So now this, we're going to double now the result of what's inside the parentheses. So we're going to do the parentheses first. 25 divided by 3. Now if you look at that, without looking at anything else, you have an int divided by an int. And so that means it's got to be an int. So you can use the decimal, the calculator, which is going to come up with 88.333, but then it's got to be an int, so you cut off the decimal. So now it's 8. So this becomes 8 because an int divided by an int is an int. And now you take the double and you apply the magic wand to the 8, it becomes magically a double or a decimal. So at this point, then you should do the bottom half of this page, and then we will give you the answers to that. And so you can do that and then come back and get this. And so here's what happens. We have a oh, is this even working? I don't know. There we go. Okay, 9.4. 9 divided by 4.0 is, of course, if you use the calculator, you keep the decimal because one of these is a decimal, so it's 2.25. And the idea here is that, well, there's no cast operator, so it just stays as 2.25. Now, the idea here is we're going to go to something that has 9 divided by 4 in it. Now, here's the problem, though. This is not now, not 4.0 now, because the int acts on this and cuts off the decimal. So now it's 9 divided by 4. That makes it an int divided by an int, which has to be an int. So it's 2.25, cut off the decimal, so you're left with 2. Number 3, you have the parentheses, so you do those first. Now we've said all along here that 9 divided by 4.0 is 2.25. And so 2.25 then, now the int is going to be acting on it, and so it comes up with just a 2. Okay, so that's only a 2. The decimals dropped. Okay, so now we're going to take a look at 8. So 12.0, we've got to do the parentheses first. 12.0 divided by 7 has to be double because one of the operands is a double. And 12.0 divided by 7 in the calculator is 1.714, which we keep because you have a double in there, so it's got to be a double. And then we take 8 times the 7, 1.714, 1.714, and we end up with 13.714, which is fine because that is a double times an int, which must be a double. Then we take this 8 times 12.0 divided by 7, which we say is 13.714. So we take that, and instead of, that's what this is, so it's 13.714. And so we are going to intize it, and so we do that, we cut off the decimal, and you're left with 13, so that's why this is 13, because it's an int. And then over here we have number 6. This is 1.714, we know already, in the parentheses. And now we're going to apply the int on it. And so the int is going to cut off the decimal, so it becomes an int, and just make it 1. All right. Alright, so that is how cast operators work.